I will show you 5 techniques you can use to solve any Sudoku faster. And with that, it's solving time. So the idea for the first technique is to prime your brain for solving. So look for some easy solves. Start down here in block 9. You'll notice that you just need a 1, 2, 3, or 6. With these 3s and this 3, you can solve for 3 right there. And then with this 1 coming down, you can solve for 1 right here. And with this 2, solve this for a 2 and finish the block with a 6. Greetings, friend. I want to thank Aaron, a new setter to this channel, for making this puzzle. I think it is perfect to show you how to apply 5 tried and true learning techniques to Sudoku to solve any puzzle faster. That first technique is called sharpening the axe. It's borrowed from a Abraham Lincoln quote. Said if he had 6 hours to cut down a tree, he'd spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe. That idea is to get your mind primed and ready for the task at hand. Technique number 2 is to use crutches to optimize your focus. So put things in place that help keep your focus on what you're trying to do. In Sudoku, you want to mark digit restrictions from 1 to 9. Looking at the 1s, there's only 2 places for 1s right here in block 2. So mark that. And then you might notice with these ones, 2 places in block 4. And with these ones, 2 places in block 6. And then 2 places in block 8. No other marks or solves you can do with the 1s. Move on to the 2s. With these 2s, you're going to see a pattern of marks for the 2s. Only 2 places there in block 2, block 6, block 8, and block 4. So this puzzle is quite symmetrical. Move on to the 3s. You'll notice with these 2 3s, only 2 places for a 3 in block 1. And then in block 5 with this 3 and the 3 in the row, 2 places right there. No other solves you can make there. Move on to the 4s. And you might see with these 2 4s and these 2 4s, you can solve for a 4 in block 7. And then with these 4s, you can mark 4s in block 3 and then in block 5 with these 4s right here. Nothing else with the 4s. Move on to the 5s. With these 2 5s and these 2 5s, similar to how the 4 was in block 7, this 5 is in block 3. And then with these 5s, 2 places for a 5 in block 5, and in block 7, 2 places right here. No other solves there. Move on to the 6s, and you're going to notice there's just not any given 6s. Only 1 6 here. Cannot make any marks or solves just yet. Move on to the 7s, and nothing with the 7s. So you notice the marking's even starting to dry up. So we're probably going to need a new technique pretty soon. But here with the 8s, with these 8s, you got 2 places for an 8 in block 6, and these 8s act as a pointing pair. Since the 8s are in the same column in this block, an 8 can't be anywhere else in the column. You got this 8 here, got this 8 here, 2 places for an 8 in block 3, and then in block 8 with these 8s, 2 places for an 8 right there. That's it with the 8s. And now I move on to technique number 3. So technique number 3 is to figure out what your weak links are and then drill them. So whatever you're having a hard time remembering or finding in a puzzle or scanning, you want to drill those. So for example, if you have trouble finding pointing pairs, you can download my free Sudoku solving guide. I give you a whole section on the definition of pointing pairs, a diagram to work on, and a short that you can click on to figure out if you got it right. It'll help you remember how to find those pointing pairs. So right here, looking at the 9s, you'll notice with this 9 and this 9 coming down, you have a pointing pair of 9s in block 7. To go with this 9 here, you can mark 9s in block 8. And then in block 6 with these 9s, you can mark 2 places for a 9 right there. But that's about it. You're not going to be able to make any marks. And you can go back through the digits 1 through 9. You're not going to find anything else. And now the question of the day. How do you learn something new? Do you practice and drill like I was talking about? Do you study everything you know about it? Please, please, please drop in the comments. Help me grow the internet's best Sudoku community. I want to hear from you. And you're not going to get any more solves in this puzzle unless you find the intended trick, which is a type of advanced strategy. So how do you do it? At this point in the puzzle, when you get stuck using the common strategies and the marking, you have 3 choices. Your first choice is you can look for single candidate strategies. So you can color all the ones and where they can be 2s, 3s, 4s, all the way to 9s and see if anything pops up for single candidate strategies. Option 2 is to look for by value cells. So you want to look for restrictions in the puzzle where there's just 2 possibilities for a candidate, and you mark that, because if you can solve one of those or eliminate one of those candidates, you can solve the cell for the other candidate right away. Similar with how you mark 2 places for a candidate in a block. The third choice, and this is huge when you're dealing with handmade classics, is to look for setter's intent. And so what's even better than looking for one of those 3, there's a bonus tip for you: combine 2 or 3 of those ideas. And so finding setter's intent is, what do you know about the setter, and what about the name or any tips or hints given? Well, the name of this is Center Table by Aaron. Aaron's a new setter. I don't know anything else about what Aaron has put in puzzles or like strategy-wise, but I know what Center Table makes me want to look here in the center block. There must be some strategy that deals with that. And now what is also peculiar to me is you have 3 different candidates here that I marked in the center cell. So what can this cell be? It looks like it could be a 3, 4, 5, or 6. So you got a 1, 2, 7, 8, 9. So if you can remove these 3, 4, 5, you should be able to solve this cell. So what can we combine with that? What would help us make some solves? I think I want to look at single candidate strategies, and you would too, for the 3, 4, and the 5. So let's look at where the 3s can be in this puzzle. 2 places there, 3 places here, 2 places there, 3 places right there. Mark that in blue. And you want to look for conjugate pairs. So 2 possibilities in a row, column, or block. So like this is a conjugate pair. This is a conjugate pair in the block, in the column, and the row. There's a lot of these. Well, what jumps out to me by comparing these conjugate pairs is, where do they match? And by conjugate, if this is either 3, if it's not a 3, the pair, the conjugate has to be a 3, right? This is the foundation for advanced strategies. Well, notice that these conjugate pairs share row 2. And the tips are in different rows in the same 3-block band. So this has a special relationship. Either this is going to be a 3. If it's not a 3, this cell has to be a 3. That can't be a 3, and you put a 3 in this other yellow cell. So either this is a 3, and anything that sees it or shares a row, column, and block can't be a 3. If it's not a 3, this cell has to be a 3. At least one of the yellow cells has to contain a 3. When you see this pattern, you have found a Sudoku skyscraper. And what it means is you can eliminate a 3 from any cell that sees both these yellow cells. So you can eliminate 3s from here and here. Now, technique number 4, you have enough to make some solves here. But technique number 4 is called overlearning. And this is when you notice multiple strategies. So right now, you may have looked at this and said, wait a minute, Timberlake, I see a skyscraper, but it's here and here. And you'd be correct. If you learn everything about skyscrapers and conjugate pairs, you can see other patterns and notice that this also forms a skyscraper, and you're going to be able to eliminate the same cell right here and a little bit different cell right there. Very cool. But you may also get, wait a minute, Timberlake, I see a conjugate pair out of the row and another one out the column here. This is a 2-string kite. Same thing, you're going to get an elimination right there with that. I like using skyscrapers because you'll get more eliminations. In this case, I can eliminate here and here versus a 2-string kite just allows you to solve this or make an elimination in this particular cell. But do the overlearning, learn how different strategies kind of overlap a little bit in how you can use them to your advantage. If you're really savvy, you'll notice that this is a finned X-wing, allows you to remove a cell right there. All that works. In this situation, with the Skyscraper, we're going to remove the 3s from any cell that sees both yellow cells. So you remove the 3 from right there, and you remove the 3 from right there. Get rid of those colors, and since you removed the 3 and displace it from that middle cell, you can solve this cell now for 3, which allows you to remove this cell, and you can mark 3s in block 2 and mark 3s in block 4, okay? With the 2-string kite, the finned X-wing, and the other Skyscraper, you end up with the same eliminations here. So that's overlearning. We got rid of one of these cannons. Now, let's see if we can get rid of the 4 or the 5. Let's look at the 4s. Where can the 4s be in this puzzle? Here, 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 and there. Okay, do you see anything? Hopefully you see a lot of conjugate pairs, and you probably see another Skyscraper. I'm going to point out this one, a little bit different than the one we saw before. So, in rows 1 and 4, you have a shared column, and then the tips, this is a sideways Skyscraper, are in different columns in the same 3-block band. So you know that 4's got to be here. If it's not here, that's a 4, no 4 there. That has to be a 4. So you can eliminate a 4 from any cell that sees both. You can eliminate the 4s from both of those cells. This is beautiful. Very symmetric. You probably noticed with the puzzle, a lot of symmetry going on. Since you removed the 4 from the middle, the only place a 4 can be in the block is right there. So as you remove that cell, limits the 4s in block 6 to right here, and the 4s in block 2 right there. And now you see the 3 and 4 on top of each other. You just made a hidden pair. So this is a nice hidden pair, 3, 4, so mark it. You know, take credit for the work that you just made. And you end up with a 5, 6 naked pair here in block 5. Okay, we've had plenty of luck with the 3 and the 4. Now, see if you can do something with the 5s. You notice the 5s can be here, 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 and here. Do you see a Skyscraper? Hopefully, or a 2-string kite, or maybe a finned X-wing. This is a more traditional Skyscraper where the bases are at the bottom, the tips are at the top. Point it out to you. Those are the bases. These are the tips. Different rows, same 3-block band. You can eliminate 5s from any cell that sees both. You can eliminate the 5 from right there and there. Get rid of those colors. And you'll notice now, this is beautiful. Now you can solve this for a 6. Solve that for a 5. 5s have to go right here to follow the colors. You just created a 3, 5 hidden pair. 5 can't be here anymore. So you got 5s right there as well. Okay. Now, take what you've learned and move on. I got one more nice little tip for you. But let's look at impact on row, column, and block. This is what you want to do right now. Take advantage of what you just found. With this 6 here now, you put more stress on this heavy house of 6 digits filled out. All you need left is a 4, 6, and 8. 6 and 8 right there. This now has to be your 4, which leaves a nice 6, 8 right here. And what you notice is now you can remove that mark. You displace this 4. And now you can solve this cell now for a 4. Allows you to solve the 3, 4 right there. And then with this 3, you can displace this 3. This is beautiful how Aaron did this. I love the symmetry here. I hopefully will see more puzzles from Aaron in the future. Look how this 5 works. You can displace that 5, solve that for a 5, displacing that 9. And so this is how you're using all those marks. You want to clean up those marks. Remember, the crutches helps with the focus. That's where you need to look next to make your solves, is where you made the marks, because that is where the greatest restriction is. You have a full house right here. You know this has to be a 7 to finish the row. Displacing that 5, displacing the 8, displacing the 1, displacing the 2. Gives you a nice 9 and 6 here. Awesome. Now where can you look? Look across this row. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9 there, 7 there. Means this has to be an 8. And it gives you a 6, 7 right here. Okay, can you do better than that? And the answer is yes. Check out right here. Take advantage of the marks you made. Where can a 9 be in these 3 remaining cells in this column? Well, you only have one 9 marked in the block in the column. So you know that has to be your 9. You already ruled out 9s on these 2 cells, which gives you a nice 7, 8 right there. Well, with the 7, that's got to be your 7 displacing that 8. Nice. And so use that to your advantage. You just solve these 7s. That has to be your 7, displacing this 2, displacing this 1. And now you can displace the 1 right here. Solve that for a 1, displace that 2. Finish the block now. This has to be a 6. You want to keep on adding these 6s to the puzzle because we started with none. So that's got to be a 6 there. That's got to be an 8. And then look at your marks. Okay, that's got to be a 7. That's got to be a 6. I don't see a 7 in column 1, so that's got to be a 7 right there. And just keep working where there is the greatest restriction. You only have 1 digit remaining in column 2, so that's got to be a 9. Leaves you with a 6 and an 8 here. With this 8, there's your 8. There's going to be your 6. And remember this 6, 8? That's your 6. That's your 8 right there. Nice. You have 2 cells remaining here, 7 and a 9. With this 9, there's your 9. There is your 7. Look across here. And you just need, looks like a 6 and a 7. Pull this 7 up. So there's your 7. There's your 6. Allow you to disambiguate the 6 and the 9 right there. Take these 9s. Solve this for a 9. Displacing that 2. And our last digit is a 1. So the last technique is called spaced repetition, which means you regularly practice something in spaced intervals before you forget it. So practice what you learned to solve this next puzzle. Thank you so much for watching.